What don't I like about our current transportation system? Um, it seems to be slanted more towards the people that live in the suburbs. Um, the inner city's kind of just there. They do what they can, not what they should, which makes it more difficult in the inner city to get to different places, especially outside of the inner city. So there's not much, it's like there's a cutoff when you get to the outer ring suburbs. Unfortunately, that's where some of the jobs are.
I don't like how slowly buses move through the core of downtown and our busiest places. I don't like how necessary driving is for so many people.
Access seems a little bit difficult in some areas. For example, Mac Groveland area, it takes me about an hour to get downtown Minneapolis, whereas bike ride is about 30 minutes and a car trip is about 16.
We don't have a robust train system. You know, I lived in Atlanta for a long time. You could get anywhere on the train fairly easily. It's super easy to access, and I feel like here it's skeletal at best.
I really like the light rail. I wish there were more light rail options, and I wish there were more trams like there used to be.
Our transportation system frustrates me because it has facilitated sprawl and low-density development for decades. I've been a bicycle commuter for more than 35 years, and I know firsthand that it is not bicycle-friendly.
I'm on my bike even when it's very cold. And so I've also seen quite a bit of what the road has to offer to bicyclists, which unfortunately is not always a very safe feeling.
I mean, there's a lot of challenges right now going on with transportation. There's equity pieces, in my opinion, that involve the community being able to actually benefit from the things that are supposed to be bringing opportunity to them. I haven't seen that really pan out in the volume that, would show up in a significant way.
I wish there was an express that went from downtown Minneapolis to the Capitol. I know a lot of us need to get back and forth during the workday, even on the weekends sometimes, and it would be great to go from center points of cities and hubbubs of where things are happening in a super expedited fashion.
And then there's just the overall access of different types of mediums of transportation. So whether we're talking vehicles, we're talking public transportation, we're talking bike lanes, all of these different things, I think we have a long way to go before we're at a healthy medium that services the needs of the communities.
The whole system doesn't feel properly balanced.
How should we make walking, biking, and transit easier?
Transit should really focus on providing reliable, transparent, easy transportation for those that need it most.
One of the things that we need is reliability and consistency in terms of our transit system. There's actually a bus stop right in front of my house, and so I see how often people use public transportation. Sometimes the buses run on time, sometimes they don't. So I think that consistency is very important.
We live in Minnesota, and in order for people to be able to utilize transit, they need to feel safe and comfortable. And I think that all bus stops should have heat, they should have lighting, they should have emergency call boxes and things like that.
One way that we can make these things easier is by learning from how we're living now. I have been biking so much more, walking so much more, really stretching where I can get to with modes of transportation that are environmentally friendly, that are easy, accessible, and I hope that we can continue to find ways to help folks, whether it's changing their work-life balance, changing our expectations of where we are and how we are during the workday, where we build up density so that it's easier to be places and get to areas where you can do a bunch of commerce or other things all in one place.
I think you'd have to redesign the communities. I think that the fact that so much of what people want access to is outside of their communities, that it makes it really difficult.
One piece of this is the built environment where we have great lighting and sidewalks that are clear in the winter and a bike lane that feels comfortable and easy to use.
Through all the land use and transportation decisions we make together to make beautiful places that are a joy to walk by and through.
The more of us that are walking, the easier it is because it sets the example.
We need a complete connected network of protected bikeways for active transportation.
I would like to see us improve by taking a more holistic approach to how we design our roadways for cyclists so that we can think about strategies that work everywhere and implement them everywhere.
I actually led a group of women of color in group rides last year and the year before, and we called ourselves the Cycle Sisters. And I remember we were on a certain bike ride, I can't remember what, I think it was last year, where we were riding down Plymouth Avenue. And Plymouth Avenue has a wonderful protected bike lane. And the women on the ride kept saying over and over again about how safe they felt and how they really enjoyed that ride because they remember just feeling very, very safe and protected being on a protected bike lane, which is a concrete wall or separation from the cars and the bikes. And so I think that really played a big role in folks who just don't bike very often or haven't biked in many years in making them feel more comfortable in getting on a bike and riding in the street.
You know, the bike lanes have been really helpful when they started to kind of get that map of bikes, places where you can ride. But what would make it easier is also access to bikes. So we're in COVID right now. Where do you go to get a bike? I try to get 5 bikes for my family members. Where do you go to get them? I know there's a ton of bikes at the University of Minnesota through the Reuse It program. How do we get those bikes to people?
Maybe your employer helps pay for your commuting, even if that's defraying the cost of transit or paying for part of your commuting bike.
I think some cultural changes need to happen first, such as being more relaxed, being more willing to go with the flow, taking a little bit more time to appreciate transit, being less car dependent, being less of an instant gratification society. If you're in a vehicle, slow down, yield to pedestrians and bikes.
A huge piece, I think, is shifting work culture. So if you show up a few minutes late for a meeting because your train was late, that's okay. And maybe you telecommute from home where over the lunch hour you can run your errands on foot or by bike.
In reference to equity, I think the biggest things are kind of things that I touched upon, really looking at how people of color and poor people could use public transportation to get access to employment and having, routes that are conducive to that.
You got a lot of people work overnights or certain jobs and ain't able to work them because of the overnight type thing. I think they need some more individualized. Maybe in the suburbs they got them little white buses, little short ones that pick people up and take them to specific destinations. They should probably, incorporate that.
For the eastern suburbs, western suburbs, maybe looking at how do we create hubs in North Minneapolis so everyone's not going downtown to get everywhere that they need to go. I think that would be helpful where people could get access to where they're looking to go without particularly going through downtown.
It also needs to be affordable for people, particularly low-income people who rely upon public transportation.
I think looking at ways that they can structure bus passes that are maybe a slightly better deal to help with people who are looking for employment.
But honestly, I think that Metro Transit is doing a really good job, and I think that we just got, now that they're starting to figure it out, we've just got to keep it going and increase that momentum, and it's going to take funding in order to make that happen.
What I would like transportation to look like in 10 years is to be inclusive for all. And when I say that, I mean most people think of transportation, they think of just cars and buses and sometimes even airplanes. I want it to be more inclusive for our walkers, our bikers. Those are forms of transportation as well.
In 10 years, I would like my commute to look like my car stays in my garage unless I am doing something where driving is absolutely required. I would like to pretty much be able to be automobileless, but then have the assets that I needed within my community. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Just being able to have a community where you could walk to things and bike to things and convenient, and then kind of have that be understood kind of a subculture around transportation.
In 10 years, I'd like to be able to go out the house and go down to a train station, grab a train, have the bus network be really super responsive to that train schedule, and so that there's an inner network of multifaceted transport, that you could have enough room for bikes on the trains, enough room for bikes on the buses, and that they go through the night, because people work nights, let's face it.
One big thing I'd love to see in 10 years is for us to have developed a much stronger culture of walking. My hope is that with more of the missing teeth filled in, fewer surface parking lots, more density in our downtown core, that walking will be a more pleasant experience, and it'll be a lot more normal for people to choose to walk as a mode of transportation.
Trams, light rail, trains serving major and busy areas, then buses serving the rest. I dream of being able to visit my hometown of Marine on St. Croix via train. That would be amazing. I dream of not owning a car and not contributing to global warming and not paying auto insurance. That would also be incredible. I dream of biking year-round and just feeling safe and not judged.
Fast, frequent transit, and I'd also like to see abundant, secure bike parking for everybody.
I want everyone to be able to get to where they're going safely, using whatever method that they choose, and that it's enjoyable for all.
In 10 years, I hope that our transportation system looks like second nature. That my son, who is 7 now, will just think of public transportation and our transportation system as something that is easy to access, is the first thing that he thinks of when he wants to get somewhere, and is just something that has become so second nature that it is built into every time we need to get somewhere.
I think that we should continue to invest in walking, biking, and transit, and the sharing economy, so that in 10 years, all people of all ages and all abilities will have the option to get to where they want to go without using a private car.
In 10 years, I'd like more bike trails and clean electric buses.